Hey, so I just published Treasure in the Snow by Lil to Kindle, and it's a much shorter book than What a Wild Spirit Brings, so it's only 99 cents. It does have a lot of drawings in it, but it's not for a small child, even though a small child is the main character. Just letting you know. So here's chapter 1 of Treasure in the Snow. The young girl awoke in the forest glade, crystallized by winter. The tall pines were covered in snow, and the wind was bone-chilling. The 6-year-old child was wrapped in only a pale sheet, and lay curled underneath a drooping bough. Her emerald eyes peeked out from under her scant shelter at the swirling snow, and widened with fear at the endless storm. Wisps of brown hair scattered about her face, tormented by the gale. All was darkness and snow. She pulled the sheet completely around herself and over her head in a vain attempt to get warm. She lay shivering and whimpering in the blizzard's fury, alone for what seemed hours. The girl was completely confused as to how she had arrived here. She last remembered that she had gone to sleep at her home, in her bed, tenderly tucked in by her mother. She didn't even know where here was. Her tears were frozen to her chubby cheeks, and she was beginning to feel so tired. It became a struggle to even shiver, and just as her numb body was starting to shut down, she heard a thud, thud, thud in the storm. The little girl forced her exhausted body to give out one loud, desperate cry, and to her relief, whoever it was stopped. "Halloo!" a strong voice cried out. The faint whine from under a sunken branch was the only reply, and would have been lost in the screaming wind if the young man had been the only person searching for a response. "Darren," said a veiled woman within an ornament carriage. "A girl under a tree wrapped in her mother's corpse. Fetch her for me." She did not shout, yet was heard clearly above the howling storm. The man obeyed his benefactor's command, and it brought him to a slightly shivering bundle buried beneath the snow. He withdrew it carefully, revealing a child about to join her mother in frozen slumber. He picked the tiny youngling up and carried her to his master. He unwrapped the pale, frostbitten girl before the open-shuttered window of the coach. The raven-haired woman within considered the child with pressed lips and weighing eyes. "All right," she said softly. "Hand her in to me." He gently hefted the young female into the carriage through the window, and then returned to his seat when his mistress said, "That will be all." As he called the horses into action, the shutters pulled themselves over the window and latched against the cold. The violet eyes of the mysterious woman, shrouded in black, began to glow in the darkness of the enclosed coach. She placed her smooth white hand upon the soft, pale forehead of this child, so close to death, lying on her lap. The brow was hot with fever, though the rest of her body was as ice. Soft, amber-hued light radiated from the pale-skinned woman. It brightened slowly and pulsed as she softly spoke. "Wind and gale, sleet and hail, tried to take thine life. But by mine hand, thou wilt understand, I can remove illness and strife. Thou mightst shed tears o'er thy fears of the cold's charm, but if time thee bide, thou wilt find I am what brings most harm." At last, as the last word was spoken, so quietly, the young girl's skin changed from blue to a light tan, her breathing calmed, her body unstiffened, and her fever died. The slightest upward turn at the farthest edge of her lips was the only show of pleasure the dark woman gave at her success. So, chapter 1, I am probably going to just leave it at one chapter. The book's pretty cheap, and I'm kind of more focused on reading What a Wild Spirit Brings. Maybe in the future I would go ahead and finish reading Treasure in the Snow on here. Maybe I won't ever. I don't know. I haven't decided yet, but there's chapter 1.